Greetings, loved ones. Let's take a journey.
I know a place where the grass is really green.
Jason's Podcast, Part 4, here with my brother Phil Iacovino in his apartment in Uptown Minneapolis. A couple final thoughts on the Twins before we turn our attention to your Minnesota Wild Club. You do, like you said, live very close to Target Field here, and even though the team has stunk, I should say, the last few years, it must be fun to get down there. What do you get there, about 5-6 games a year?
Yeah,
like
I get about somewhere around a half a dozen or so. Typically, I only plan on doing 2 or 3, but it's one of those things where you live so close. Sometimes around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, you'll get a text from somebody, hey, going to the game, got a ticket, you interested?
Where do you usually sit when you go?
So I've been fortunate enough where we have like these, out there in left field, but we don't sit, actually. Everybody gets a ticket, and we don't really have just get in the stadium is kind of the thing, and then we go out there and write by the flagpole in that area, and just kind of stand around and just kind of take in the game and bring a few bucks for some side games, and it's a lot of fun.
And that's
and then I guess a couple of times I have a friend who has season tickets down the first baseline, and I sat there a couple of times last year.
There's really not a bad seat there unless you're high in the upper deck, I guess.
And that's why we take advantage of that right field area, that plaza, kind of just outside of Hubert's, basically. And you just kind of stand there, and it's a good time.
But I assume, I'm not. I assume you wouldn't take issue with this. You're not exactly a hardcore baseball fan, more of a casual baseball fan guy. But it is a place to hang out just socially if, you're only mildly interested in the game. Right.
Now, the last game I went to was the 4th of July weekend, and the Yankees were in town, so we kind of paid a little extra attention. Jeter's last time to Target Field, if you don't count the All-Star game. And it was a lot of fun. But yeah, we're, like I said, fortunate enough or whatever, I've chosen to put myself here in this downtown location where you get that. It definitely adds to the experience, and I think I'm not alone in that.
As we speak, like I said, the Twins are 1-4. There's actually 2 undefeated teams in the AL Central still, the Tigers and the Kansas City Royals, who the experts were saying would have a letdown year following their American League Championship last year, and they're, here they are 5-0. So that's it's a tough division.
Well, wasn't Chicago picked by a lot of people to win this division?
No. Chicago White Sox?
I thought on Baseball Tonight I saw that. Somebody from Baseball Tonight picked Chicago.
I missed that, if that's the case. If somebody picked the White Sox to win, I missed that. We were talking about Mauer. He does have a single as the Twins trail 1-0 early, first inning in their game today against the White Sox. Yeah, if they come home 1-5 tomorrow, boy, that's going to be tough at that point. Switching gears to the Wild, they are in the playoffs again. Quite a turnaround this season once they acquired Dubnyk, and they'll play the St. Louis Blues to start the Stanley Cup playoffs. What do you think about that matchup?
Well, they had I don't know if you were familiar with the scenarios yesterday prior to their final regular season game against St. Louis. It was it was either going to be 60. I think it was 65% to play St. Louis, and then Anaheim was in there had they won and Chicago lost. Then they would have got the third spot. It ended up being St. Louis, and I honestly think that there is not a bad match. The only matchup I was not hoping for was Anaheim.
Yep.
So I think if we would have faced Chicago, we're fine. If we faced St. Louis, we're fine. We face Nashville. We've proven that we can take care of Nashville on the road. And honestly, other than yesterday was a chance to break the NHL record for road wins, consecutive road wins of all time. So we tied it with 12 when we beat Nashville earlier in the week, and then I think we sat some guys yesterday.
But they played Dubnyk.
Dubnyk needed the game, though.
By the Blues.
Yeah, and that's okay. Think about it now. He's played over 40 games consecutively for the Wild. We picked him up from Phoenix, and really, there was some chatter about Dubnyk getting the MVP, and think about some of the other moves that Chuck Fletcher's made over there. I think he's deserving of executive of the year in the NHL, picking up Stewart, and
absolutely,
just doing some really good things. And again, this was a year that we talked about maybe Mike Yeo being in danger of his job in December, and by the end of January, maybe he's coach of the year. We don't know.
A lot, this story has yet to play out. I will say, one thing that for people who are like, well, they made the playoffs, that's awesome, that's something just to celebrate in and of itself. I always have to point out that in the Western Conference in the NHL, there's only 14 teams, 8 of them make the playoffs. So you're not even necessarily in the top half to make the play. You know what I mean? 6 teams miss it, 8 make it, as opposed to like the NFL or baseball.
Well, the
a
NBA
much
half
smaller
the teams
percentage.
make it.
NBA half the teams make it. I get that, but I just, to me, you got to have a little something more than just make the playoffs, especially the way that the Wild have dominated down the stretch here, particularly on the road. But just all in all, and that's the one thing. It seems like it's all hinging on Dubnyk. And so, what happens if he's not as good as he was? During the stretch between February and March.
It's like a pitcher in baseball. If you got somebody hot and you can ride them through the regular season and into the playoffs. If San Francisco doesn't have Bumgarner last year, are you going to put them where they're at? Maybe not.
No.
So Dubnyk is that same type of. In hockey, it's the same thing. He's a very talented definitely playing at the highest level that there is right now, as far as goaltenders in the NHL are concerned. But keep in mind, the Wild have the best penalty kill, and that's a credit to Dubnyk, but it's not all Dubnyk.
Okay.
They're probably one of the best defensive men in the league who plays 30 minutes a night in Suter. Okay, you're looking at offensive, top to bottom, their top line versus their fourth line. There's not much of a gap between those 4 lines where other teams, their first and second line really can get in there, and then, then the opponent gets kind of a break with the third and fourth line. With the Wild, their fourth line is sometimes scoring game-winning goals, game-tying goals. I'm trying to think, we have a situation right now with picking up Stewart, where somebody's going to have to sit on this roster. It could be, Zucker, which there's no way. He's coming back from injury. He's got 3 points since then. It could be Schrader, Schrader. The guys with speed we need. Fontaine, he might have to sit. It's a good problem to have, but we're deep. I think we're not just defensively and a hot goaltender. We've got 3 solid lines.
So this series between the Wild and the Blues, it starts on Thursday at 8:30 Central Time on NBC Sports Network in St. Louis. I follow a lot of guys on Twitter who are big into the Wild, and it seems like when they're playing well, the feeling is we've just won the World Series. It's this big, everything. There's so much praise, but then if they're struggling like they were, last week when they had that 3-game losing streak, you see these comments where it's like, these guys stink, no energy, what's going on here, blah, blah, blah. Let me ask you, what would you like to see here in the playoffs, for you to consider this a successful run?
Well, I think we got to take care of St. Louis. I don't think it would be. I wouldn't consider it a success if we didn't win this series.
Are they the favorites, or are the Blues the favorites?
Oh, the Blues will be the favorites.
Big favorites?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked at that. Okay. I wouldn't put them as a big favorite.
All right.
I would think the Wild can take care of it in 6. I do. Just based upon the fact that we got to play in St. Louis, and we're pretty strong on the road right now, and for us not to get 1 or 2 games at home doesn't make sense. I will say this though. I think. And I'm not alone in this thought. I think that the winner of this series represents the West.
Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy about to tee off here in the first hole in the final round of the Masters. This is an interesting pairing. Number 1 player in the world, Rory McIlroy, looking for his first green jacket. Tiger Woods has got 4 of them, and Rory right down the middle.
You know what's kind of funny, Jason?
It's crawled in the rough for the second cut.
Ooh,
second cut.
Good thing we're not commissioned by
I'd be dead.
Augusta National.
No chance.
What's kind of funny about this situation? So you've seen this commercial all week, or at least it's been playing if you've watched YouTube and some TV, where it's a young Rory McIlroy watching Tiger Woods and wanting to be Tiger Woods, and it's true.
In North Ireland, I don't know.
I guess he was a good big study. Hey, if you're playing golf and the best golfer happens to anyway,
I guess so.
It ends with Tiger and Rory in the same pairing, where Tiger tees off and Rory tees out, and then they walk down the fairway together. Now, in the commercial, Tiger had the honor. In real life here, Tiger did not have the honor. Of course, on one, he's left of left.
Yep.
And These two are going to have to. One of these two, in order for either of them to have a
Have to
chance,
go really low.
got to go low.
All right.
It's tough.
We'll be back with more Jason's podcast, krforadio.com.